Today I pulled a 3-card spread with clarifiers. The first card represents what you're being asked to receive, what you're being asked to let in at this point in time when you come across this reading. The second card represents what you're being asked to let go of. And the third card represents the purpose of what you're being asked to receive and let go of. So essentially the why behind what you're being asked to do. So before we get into the story that these cards are telling me, let's just take a few deep breaths together. I know it might not seem like it's worth the time to take a few moments to breathe deeply before I share what's being called to be said through me, and before you receive the guidance and insights that you need. However, I think not only does grounding at the beginning help me, I think it also is helpful in terms of receiving, in terms of getting the insights that we need to hear. So with that being said, take a moment to scan your body gently from the crown of your head down to your tailbone and out through the soles of your feet. And let any stress that's willing to go be removed through the soles of your feet. So let your shoulders be heavy and then just feel that heaviness go all the way down your body and then out your feet. Let your jaw relax. And take a few deep breaths, making any large or small adjustments with your body that would allow you to feel more comfortable. Even if you are listening to this on the move, in your car, on a walk, can still, release tension in your face, unclench your fists, things of that nature. And then if you'd prefer, you're welcome to stay in this more meditative state as I speak out what's coming to me in terms of the story of these cards. However, if you would prefer not to stay with your eyes closed and in a more meditative state, then take one more deep breath where you're at. And then you can blink your eyes open. And let's move into the story of these cards, shall we? So again, card 1 represents what you're being asked to do, what you're being asked to receive. Card 2 represents what you're being asked to release, what you're being asked to let go of. And the final card represents the why behind these requests from Spirit. So the purpose of it, what you could become, what you could receive, have, do, so on and so forth. If this guidance resonates and you take baby steps in that direction. So, Temperance for the first card, what you're being asked to do, what you're being asked to receive. Temperance to me always represents healing in some fashion. And I think one thing that what am I trying to say? One thing that separates Temperance for me from like the Star card, Star to me also represents healing, is I think Temperance, as you can kind of see in this imagery here, is healing through balance. So in the original, or in the Smith-Waite deck, the Temperance card there's like an angel that has one foot on the land and one foot in water. And I really like that idea because it's like balancing the earthly matters, with the flow of the universe. And so there's, in terms of what you're being asked to do, what you're being asked to receive, I believe it has something to do with a willingness to look at what may be tangibly out of balance in your life and in yourself and do what needs to be done to work towards healing, one baby step at a time. Now, when I pulled clarifiers for the Temperance card, here's what came out. So 3 cards. Maybe I'll move this up here for now. Move these over for a second. Okay, so I thought this was really interesting and definitely told me a story. So I think what it tells me is that there's a hunger for this, but also a fear that's present. So a hunger for this healing that wants to happen, this tangible rebalancing that wants to happen, but also a fear. So it's telling me that there is some push-pull energy within you, which makes a lot of sense. I think anytime we're working towards positive change in whatever regard, we're always kind of up against ourselves, aren't we? And so here, I thought this was interesting. It's death in reverse. And so the clarifiers are not a tarot deck. This is, let me show you the box here. The Prism Oracles are such a cool deck. It just helps get some clear-cut, answers. There's a simplicity to them, obviously. But my point in saying that is, so this isn't like the same card as the Death card in the tarot. However, it did speak to me in that way. And the Death card to me is one of the most beautiful cards in the tarot because it's like a willingness to release and have a rebirth, right? So it's just interesting on a spread where I'm asking, what wants to be allowed, what wants to be released, and the Death card is showing up in reverse to clarify what wants to be allowed. And so I think what this is telling me is when you're willing to recognize that the fear and the hunger for change is present, and you're still, instead of letting these two just be in opposition, so the hunger might be like ravenous sometimes, and you you try to make changes, but it doesn't essentially, it doesn't, they're not sustainable, right? And then the fear might be quote unquote ravenous sometimes, and it just keeps you like stuck in where you're at. I feel like what Temperance is telling me is when you're willing to allow some rebalancing to happen, when you're willing to allow healing to happen, and I think it's like allowing more balance in through healing, and I also think it's allowing more healing in through correcting imbalances. When that happens, instead of letting these be in charge, because when they're in charge, a rebirth is being delayed. Does that make sense? When you're allowing more healing in, more balance in, then this is going to be able to flip, and ironically, then you can move into what needs to be let go of for the purpose of what this card is representing, the Empress. Does that make sense? And so I thought there was a lot, and you know what was interesting? When I was doing this spread, I was like, it kept telling me the first card is what needs to be allowed, and the second card is what needs to be let go. And I was like, kind of speaking to spirit, so to speak, I was like, shouldn't we do the let go first? And it kept saying, no, no, no. And now when these clarifiers came out, that made a lot of sense to me, that the allowing of this will again flip this so that you can move into what is ready to be let go of. Does that make sense? So again, I think you start here, which is allowing healing in order to rebalance different areas of your life, and at the same time, allowing rebalancing in order to heal. Then let's move to the second card, the Four of Pentacles. So this is what Spirit is asking that you let go of at this time. So the Four of Pentacles is what it's saying to me intuitively in this spread is that you're being asked to let go of clinging in order to find quote unquote balance. Okay? You see how like the imagery in this card, it's like struggling to have balance, like it's kind of propped up and it's giving the illusion of balance, like maybe they aren't totally crumbling at this point, but it's not really a balanced structure I would trust, right? So that's kind of like what the Four of Pentacles is saying to me here, that there's an illusion of balance in your life that you're being asked to let go of. And it's a balance that happens through clinging and control. and that what's wanting to be allowed is true balance. So balance through healing, balance through correcting imbalances, not balance through propping up. Does that make sense? And then it was interesting because this sorry about that. This card was clarified by the love card, which I just couldn't help but notice that, look at these pinks here, pink in the Empress, pink here. I kind of feel like that's like the yin yang symbol. Like, you know how like in the yin yang symbol, what that represents is there's always like potential for darkness and light, and there's always potential for light in darkness. I feel like what this is saying to me is like within this experience right now of letting go, you're going to get to experience the Empress, right? And within being the Empress, you're going to be able to see the past self of you. So in the future, when you are embodying the Empress of this, what your current state, the Spirit is asking you to allow and let go of, which is leading you to the Empress state, that when you are embodying that, you're going to know that a piece of embodying that was going through what could potentially be a difficult letting go. So there's kind of like a holistic hologram, so to speak, of just like, of it all being one. I don't know if that makes sense, but take it or leave it. Take it if it resonates, leave it if it felt too messy for you. Okay, back to Four of Pentacles. So you're being asked to let in Temperance, healing through true rebalancing, or rebalancing it for the purpose of healing. And that allowance is going to unlock, so move death from in reverse to you being able to then look at what you're willing to let go of. And you're letting go of a fake sense of balance through clinging, balance through control. And what the love card speaks to me about is, you know, there might have to be some considerations of a certain relationship in your life needing to be let go of. That could be what, for some of you, this love card is saying. But it may not. Another way to interpret it is, I think this speaks about like codependency, right? So I think what's being asked to let go of is maybe a definition of love that is could be considered like clingy or controlling, or this codependent in nature, where even, you know, if Pentacles, so this is Four of Pentacles here, Pentacles represent like the material aspects of life, the really physical things. So it could just be like codependency, like how you get your material needs met might be more out of balance than you realize. And so what is being asked to let go of is maybe this more, potentially codependent definition, expression of love, so that you can move to the embodiment of the Empress. Now, I don't know about you, but learning about codependency has been one of the most difficult things in my life and the most rewarding. And it's been a long journey for me. So if you've never heard of codependency, just start to look it up. Find some therapists you trust to follow on Instagram and read their books. Maybe consider seeking out a therapist, because really what working through, each of us working through our own codependency issues, and they're all going to show up in different ways for different people. They're going to come in different forms, so to speak. But what working through that can do is can lead to exactly this Empress energy. So as difficult as it is to redefine our definitions of love, it's worth it when we can begin to embody the Empress. The Empress is one of the most abundant cards in the deck. She is an embodiment of abundance, really. She's an embodiment of self-sufficiency. She's an embodiment of freedom. And maybe freedom is the one of the biggest words that wants to come through, because if you look at this, like look at that structure. It's being propped up. It looks like it's on the verge of falling. And when we do this, also look at here, there's like a hierarchy. Do you see almost like what that is showing, like this hierarchy? So there's not freedom here. There might be like persistent, like something's not, is continuing, it's not falling and crashing, but it's not free. And actually I'm noticing here, like look at these thin triangles. That's what's propping this up. And then in this one, it's self-sufficient. And then interesting, look at how this card reminded me of this. It's almost like the foundation is a healthier definition of love, a healthier definition of exchange of energy, a healthier definition of what it means to be in a relationship. Wow, that's really interesting, isn't it? That seems to be what it's saying. So you're not having to prop things up anymore with your power, but instead you can stand high and dignified in your power. Gosh, it's really exciting. I'm excited for you. I'm laughing because as I say that, I also know the immense amount of work it takes, emotional labor, time, energy, to redefine these things, to allow healing, to understand what true healthy relationship dynamics are, and to begin setting boundaries and things of that nature in order to establish those healthy dynamics. But then look at what it leads to. Like, look at, even I'm noticing, like, there's just like a lot of simplicity in this card, isn't there? And a lot of beauty, and it does feel just like nicely balanced, doesn't it? Like there's still the complexity of life, but there is simplicity and balance, which is incredible. And then when I pulled a clarifier for you for the Empress, it was protection. Isn't that lovely? So the purpose of you, maybe I'll get all the cards out here so we can see the final story with the clarifiers. Oh no, here they are. Okay. So the purpose of this entire journey, of what you're being asked to allow, and again, that's the Temperance card. What you're being asked to allow is healing through balance, and balance through healing. You're being asked to recognize both your fear and your hunger. And instead of letting those two be in charge and conflicting, you're being asked to allow the healing so that the delay in your rebirth can turn into a not delay. A not delay. I don't think that's a thing. You get what I mean? And then you can move into what you're being asked to let go of. And you're being asked to let go of outdated, unhealthy definitions of love, and outdated, unhealthy relationship dynamics that may seem to be holding things together and to be keeping things in balance, but that is just an illusion. So the beauty of this, as difficult as it is to do that, nothing is actually lost, because we're just losing an illusion. We're not losing, so you're not losing true balance, you're losing the illusion of balance. And then you're being asked to do all that for this beautiful purpose, Empress and protection. Isn't that incredible? So Empress representing abundance, freedom, dignity, solid foundations, true balance, and that all being protected. Your beautiful, important essence being protected, but then also the protection of what you've earned. You know, this is a journey. This is a request from the universe. And then those requests, once we fulfill them, we do get quote unquote rewards, right? And those rewards are then protected. It's really such a beautiful reading. So I think that's all for now. Let's take a few final deep breaths together if it feels right. So maybe put your hand on your heart, or even if it feels right, maybe like right hand on your heart, left hand on your throat. And Take a few deep breaths. Your throat is not only your energy center of expression and communication, but also of change. And so if it feels right as you breathe deeply, repeat a few times in just quietly to yourself, I am willing to change. I am willing to change. I am willing to change. One final breath. And then blink your eyes open. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you found this reading helpful.